It was one of those pristine spring mornings, the sort that allows you to momentarily overlook the lingering ache in your back from the winter's grasp. The clock had struck 7, and there I was, cradling a cup of lukewarm coffee in my kitchen, my mind busy crafting a mental inventory of all the items I needed to pack. As my lease drew to a close, I found myself on the brink of a significant transition, preparing to downsize after 23 years in the same abode. Parting with a dwelling steeped in memories, where every chipped corner and worn cabinet handle whispered stories of the past, was no simple task, yet I felt prepared to move on. At least that's what I convinced myself. The company had provided a moving stipend, which was beneficial, yet it did not include additional assistance, and I was well aware of the folly in attempting to lift heavy boxes alone. I had already strained my shoulder the previous week while hauling my old printer down to the car. So, when my boss Miriam called to inquire about the progress of the move and casually suggested sending her son over to assist, I found myself agreeing before fully considering the implications. I was aware of Jason. Our paths had crossed once before, during a festive gathering at the office. He presented his mother with a new scarf and remained largely silent, yet I couldn't help but recall how striking he appeared. He possessed a serene assurance that many men develop in their 30s, a quality that requires no validation. A handful of courteous words, a firm handshake, and then it was over. When Miriam mentioned he would arrive by 10, I found myself not expecting much. At precisely 9:58, the doorbell chimed. I opened the door, and there he stood, tall and exuding that familiar calm energy, clad in well-worn jeans and a faded flannel shirt. With his sleeves rolled up and a small tool bag casually slung over one shoulder, he exuded an air of readiness and purpose. His smile broke forth as I opened the door, genuine and warm, far removed from the mere courteous expressions often exchanged in office corridors. "I'm Miss Harper Wright," he said, extending his hand once more. "My name is Jason. My mother mentioned that you might benefit from some extra strength today." I chuckled softly, moving to the side. "Refer to me as Diane." Indeed, with a sense of urgency, I might have misjudged my capacity to tackle the immense task of clearing out a lifetime's worth of clutter on my own. He entered, surveying the living room, now overtaken by towering stacks of half-packed boxes, some sealed tight, while others gaped open, their flaps protruding like delicate paper wings. "You have accomplished much thus far. I have completed all the straightforward tasks I mentioned. What remains are the tasks I have been delaying. Ah, the relics of the past. Those dusty files, the worn pages of books, the cherished photo albums, and the cluttered garage." Jason smiled broadly. "It seems we are about to embark on a journey through some forgotten recollections." He pushed his sleeves up further and set to work with determination. I indicated what required lifting and packing, making an effort not to linger too closely. Yet, there was an undeniable quality to his presence that stirred a sense of unease within me. Not in a negative sense, but in a manner that heightened my sensitivity to the serene pauses we shared. It was as if he presented me with a framed photo that had quietly fallen behind a cabinet. It captured a moment of my late husband and me, during the early days of our journey in this house we had just acquired. Jason paused for a brief moment, his gaze lingering on it before he handed it over to me. "Your expression radiates joy in this moment." I inclined my head in agreement. We existed. It was an age past. He departed from this world 8 years ago. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "Such a loss. It lingers in the shadows, forever etched in the heart, doesn't it?" "No," I confessed, my fingers gliding along the rim of the frame. "It intertwines with your essence, akin to a second heartbeat." Silence enveloped the moment as we resumed our tasks. Yet, an undeniable change had occurred. After that, his gaze held a gentle warmth as it met mine, a certain quiet respect that took me by surprise. For the next hour, we found ourselves in the garage, sifting through boxes filled with forgotten tools, paint cans, and items that had lain untouched for years. He stumbled upon an old wood carving that had slipped from my memory, a project I had embarked upon in my early 40s, but never brought to completion. "You created?" he inquired, lifting it aloft. It was challenging, somewhat inconsistent, yet still commendable for someone just starting out. I certainly did. Once, I found great joy in the art of crafting with my hands. Life intervened. He examined it with a lingering gaze. It would be wise to return to it. Your perception of shape is remarkable. The compliment was modest in size, yet it struck a chord far deeper than one might expect. Perhaps it was in the manner of his delivery. It wasn't merely an act of politeness. He truly meant it from the depths of his being. It was as if he had glimpsed something I had long kept hidden away. By noon, we had achieved significant strides. The living room lay nearly empty, and I urged him to pause for a moment. With the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air, I prepared turkey sandwiches for us, and we settled at the quaint table by the kitchen window. I inquired, aiming for a light-hearted exchange. What occupies your time when you're not assisting your mother's colleagues with their relocations? He let out a soft chuckle. I engage in freelance design consulting, dabbling in architecture, with a focus on interior renovation and small-scale projects. There is nothing glamorous about it. That clarifies the presence of the tool bag, I remarked. Your hands bear the mark of a creator, one who constructs and shapes the world around them. Jason's gaze lingered on me for a heartbeat, his face a mask of inscrutability. I enjoy crafting environments that evoke emotions, transcending mere functionality to foster a sense of belonging and personal connection. I inclined my head with deliberation, such a rarity in today's world. For a time, we lingered in quietude, savoring our meal while observing the wind dance through the trees beyond, uncertain of the essence that defined that moment. The stillness, the unspoken bond in the way he gazed at me, not with sympathy, but with curiosity, with engagement. Suddenly, he inquired, was it difficult to part with the house? I hesitated before responding. Indeed, though the motivations may not align with common perceptions. It's neither the walls nor the yard nor the floor plan. It is the specters. They remain silent, yet they harbor a strong aversion to change. He smiled, a gesture not of mockery, but of contemplation. At times, it requires the presence of a fresh soul to find harmony with the lingering specters of the past. That sentence lingered in my mind. Long after we resumed our packing, long after he had transported the final heavy box into the hallway, even as he prepared to depart, dust clinging to his shirt and a bead of sweat glistening at his temple, I discovered an unwillingness to let the day slip away. Once more, I expressed my gratitude as I escorted him to the door. Whenever he responded, he came to a halt. Would it be all right if I returned tomorrow? It appears that we have only just begun, and I find myself with some time to spare. A sensation began to awaken within my chest. Perhaps it was a sense of appreciation. Perhaps it was a sense of wonder. Perhaps it was an emotion I hadn't experienced in ages. I would appreciate that, I murmured softly. I would truly appreciate that. With the door clicking shut behind him, I found myself leaning against it, my heart fluttering in a way I hadn't anticipated. Today, it wasn't just the boxes that were in motion. There was a stirring within me as well. The following morning, I found myself lingering over the act of brushing my hair, extending the ritual longer than I typically would. I even applied a delicate rose-tinted lipstick that had lain untouched for months, not out of a desire to impress Jason. That's the narrative I crafted for myself. Yet, it was the warmth of caring that brought a sense of fulfillment once more. A peculiar energy enveloped the house, as if the very air had transformed, stirring something dormant within me. Jason made his entrance at approximately 10:30, a few minutes behind his arrival the previous day. A wave of relief washed over me as I spotted him on the porch, that familiar relaxed smile gracing his face, a tray of iced coffees balanced effortlessly in his hands. He extended one toward me, suggesting that I might appreciate something chilled today. You're already spoiling me, I replied, accepting the drink with gratitude. Continue this way and I might just have to add you to the payroll. He spoke of fair trade. You provide me with sandwiches. I elevate objects, we consider it a fair exchange. We began in the bedroom closet, the final genuine peak to conquer, before I sensed that the transition was genuinely in motion. The space brimmed with garments long untouched, relics of the past nestled in boxes, and a drawer overflowing with an array of mismatched scarves. I lacked the resolve to part with it. While Jason wrestled with the weighty bins, I perched on the edge of the bed, sifting through a collection of forgotten journals. At one moment, I unlatched a small velvet box that was unfamiliar to me. Within lay a delicate silver bracelet, a cherished gift from my husband to commemorate our 15th anniversary. It had been years since I last laid eyes on it. My breath hitched in my throat. Jason observed, "Are you all right?" I nodded, allowing silence to linger for a moment before finding my voice. The bracelet rested lightly in my palm, its coolness contrasting sharply with the unexpected heaviness of the memory it evoked. I flipped it over and read the engraving on the back, just as I always do. The year before he passed, my husband presented me with this. I finally uttered the words I had long held back. My voice was gentler than I had meant it to be. We found ourselves navigating through a tumultuous period, balance between work, health, and life. Everything was converging in on itself. One evening, he simply offered me this bracelet, accompanied by a silent gaze, devoid of any grandiloquent speech. Jason positioned himself beside me, maintaining a respectful distance, yet close enough for me to sense the comforting warmth of his presence. "It seems he truly perceived your presence." "He certainly did," I murmured softly, even in moments when I was lost to my own reflection. We lingered in the stillness for a moment. "Take your time. There is no necessity to occupy the quiet moments." That was a truly exceptional occurrence. A man who understood the art of embracing silence with ease. Then he uttered a remark that took me by surprise. "I must admit, I never truly perceived my mother in this light. As an individual who existed prior to my arrival, prior to the demands of a career, and prior to embracing motherhood." I glanced over at him. How effortlessly we can overlook it, can't we? Individuals possess intricate layers. We do not always embody the roles we assume. He inclined his head with deliberation. "Perhaps that's what draws me to assist you with your move. Transcends mere boxes. It is narratives, fragments of your past self and the essence of your present being." His words carried a softness that enveloped my heart and found a place to rest within me. Uncertainty clouded my thoughts, leaving me at a loss for words. With a smile, I presented him with a box filled with vintage records. "If you seek to understand my past, perhaps this will illuminate the way." He chuckled, sifting through the pile. "Fleetwood Mac, Joni Mitchell, Carole King. You've possesses a refined palate. Do you really believe I would be the sort of woman to stow away her music after I had my fun with it?" He cast his gaze upon me then, truly examined, and remarked, "I believe you are the type of woman who reserves the most significant elements for the end." There was a certain quality in his words that flushed my cheeks with warmth. I had grown unaccustomed to being perceived in such a manner, not merely as an individual belonging to another, colleague or resident, yet as a woman carrying a rich tapestry of experiences. As we toiled for a few more hours, each passing moment grew increasingly familiar, weaving a tapestry of shared experience. In a fleeting moment, as I stretched to grasp a box perched on the top shelf, I felt my balance waver ever so slightly. Jason grasped my waist, anchoring me just before I could falter. For a fleeting moment, we stood so close that I could discern the delicate flecks of green dancing within his hazel eyes. He held on for a moment longer. I did not either. "Be careful," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "One must tread carefully to avoid pain." "I'm fine," he whispered softly. Yet the reality was that I found myself in a state of uncertainty. In that moment, an air of fragility lingered, delicate and fleeting. Not merely the proximity of bodies, but something more profound feelings. It frightened me more than I was willing to acknowledge. As we settled in for lunch, I noticed him observing me intently, not in a manner that induced discomfort, but rather in a way that evoked a sense of being desired, as if I remained perceptible in a realm that frequently overlooked women such as myself. "Text, I remarked on your serene presence, shattering the stillness that enveloped us." He offered a smile. It serves as a protective barrier. I tend to analyze every detail, so I make an effort to appear composed on the surface. That's quite an impressive trick, I remarked. Please impart your knowledge to me. He let out a hearty laugh. I sense that there is a reservoir of strength within you that you have yet to reveal. The praise hung in the air, a delicate thread connecting us. I found myself unable to deflect it as I typically would. I allowed it to rest, to seep in, to envelop me with its warmth from the inside out. As he gathered his belongings to depart, the sun had descended, spilling a warm golden glow through the slats of the blinds. He lingered at the door, swung back in my direction. I will be available tomorrow should you require assistance. I murmured gently, though not solely with the boxes. Jason locked his eyes onto mine, an unspoken tension shimmering between us. Until tomorrow, then. The door clicked shut, leaving me in the dimming glow, a sensation of change washing over me once more. Prospect that is uncertain yet tangible. The boxes gradually emptied, yet within me, something else was just starting to swell. On the following day, an unmistakable shift lingered in the air. The house, once filled with boxes and the echoes of memories, had begun to feel unexpectedly spacious. Not solely in a physical sense, but also on an emotional level. Space had opened up for inhalation, for contemplation, for the emergence of the unfamiliar. Jason made his entrance shortly after the clock struck 10. A familiar gentle rap on the door, accompanied by that ever-easy smile. This time he arrived empty-handed, without the familiar warmth of coffee in tow. Instead, he grasped a modest paperback. I thought you might appreciate these, he remarked, extending them to me as I opened the door. Within lay 2 freshly baked croissants from a quaint cafe near downtown, their warmth still lingering. Now you're certainly spoiling me, I remarked, stepping aside to grant him entry. You've earned it, he responded. You have carried the burden of this place for an extended period. Moments. We shared breakfast at the counter, just like old friends, without any fuss or formality. The kitchen, adorned with chipped countertops and faded wallpaper, exuded a newfound coziness, as if it were rediscovering its essence as a home. Subsequently, we transitioned to the sunroom. A handful of boxes remained, their contents largely consisting of forgotten art supplies from days gone by. Stretched canvases, well-worn brushes, and tubes of acrylic paint, some only partially emptied. Jason knelt beside one of the boxes, retrieving a small, incomplete landscape. The brushstrokes were daring, somewhat chaotic, yet brimming with feeling. Did you create this painting? He inquired. After a moment of uncertainty, I gave a slight nod. Long ago, in a time when the world was less chaotic, he cradled it tenderly, as if it held great significance. It is truly exquisite. Your grip is firm. I once possessed that same strength. It has been more than 10 years since I last held a brush in my hand. What's stopping us? I shrugged, a sudden awareness of the dull ache settling in my chest. I believe I have ceased to grant myself the freedom to create solely for my own enjoyment. Life swells with activity, then settles into stillness. And in that space you lose sight of your former self. Jason rested against the doorframe, the painting still cradled in his hands. Begin anew, not for the sake of others, exclusively for you. His words fell gently, akin to a stone sinking into still water. I chose not to respond. I found it unnecessary. My expression revealed it all, a peculiar blend of sorrow and yearning. We passed the afternoon in a cadence that seemed almost divine. He bore the weight of my organization. We exchanged tales of whimsical childhood mishaps and past relationships that never fully blossomed. Departing, there existed no burden to dazzle, nothing but authenticity, 2 souls coexisting authentically within the same realm. As we lifted the box in unison, our hands brushed against each other. Neither of us made a move to depart. You've got paint on your fingers, he said, a smile dancing on his lips. I found myself sifting through the collection of art supplies. Compliments you beautifully. That unadorned statement stirred something within me. Words eluded me, and thus I remained silent. Yet, My gaze remained fixed on his face, lingering far longer than it ought to have. The delicate sprinkle of freckles adorned his cheek, and I observed how his lips formed a subtle curve whenever he was lost in thought. Subsequently, we paused for a moment in the backyard. The sun dipped toward the horizon, stretching elongated golden shadows across the lawn. I poured a couple of lemonades and we settled onto the steps, gazing out at the wild expanse of the garden. This place possesses a serene beauty, Jason remarked, even amidst the weeds. A smile graced my lips. Such is the sentiment that envelopes me on the majority of days. He gazed at me then, his expression a mystery. May you understand that the opportunity to blossom anew is yours to embrace. His tone held a quality that caused me to inhale a bit too sharply, as if the conversation had shifted beyond the garden's confines. It was as if he pierced through the veils I had not recognized I still carried. We lingered in quietude for what felt like an eternity, sipping lemonade as the gentle breeze enveloped us. As the sun began its descent, casting a warm glow, I rose to make my way indoors. Jason trailed behind. As we re-entered the hallway, I faltered a bit on one of the creaky floorboards beneath my feet. He instinctively extended his arm, encircling my waist, providing a steadying presence. "Are you all right?" he inquired, his tone hushed. I nodded, breath hitching at the proximity between us. His hand lingered gently on my waist. My heart pounded with a fervor I could hardly acknowledge. Yet neither of us made a move to retreat. I believe I started, only to halt shortly thereafter. It seems I have lost the memory of what it is to be truly seen, to be embraced. Jason's gaze sought out my own. "You are worthy." Both, and not merely in a fleeting manner. The atmosphere in the room was thick, not with fear or confusion, but with unvoiced realities, burdened by the emotions that had subtly accumulated between us during those days filled with boxes and forgotten tales. Yet we remained within the bounds of propriety. Not at this moment. Yet there was an undeniable quality in the manner his fingers hesitated before releasing their hold, in the way his gaze met mine as he lifted his bag, ready to depart. "I'll return tomorrow," he murmured gently. "I know," I replied, standing in the doorway, as he emerged into the twilight of the evening. "I shall remain here." As the door clicked shut, I lingered in that moment, suspended in time. The air lingered, still warm with all that remains unspoken. Something within me had unfurled. An unassuming, blossoming pain I had not experienced in many years. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I found myself unafraid of it. The last day of the move arrived more swiftly than I had anticipated. A handful of boxes remained, filled with sentimental items I had yet to summon the courage to confront. The sun hung high in the sky as Jason made his entrance, his shirt slightly rumpled, yet his smile remained effortlessly warm. This time he arrived empty-handed, with nothing but his own presence. And in that moment it seemed to suffice. "Morning," he remarked as he entered the room. "Good morning," I responded, my voice more inviting than I had anticipated. "Are you prepared for the final round?" He nodded, yet neither of us made a move toward the stack of boxes immediately. Instead, we found ourselves wandering back to the kitchen, as if seeking one last moment of tranquility before the heaviness of farewell could settle in. Our words were few. It was not an awkward moment. The space was brimming. The atmosphere enveloped us, laden with unspoken words we had yet to voice. After a brief interlude, we eventually made our way back to the living room. I motioned toward a box resting by the window. "That box is brimming with cherished letters from friends, my husband, and even notes from my younger self. It has been years since I last opened them." Jason knelt beside it, tracing a finger along the edge. "Correspondence serves as vessels that transcend the boundaries of time. Have you ever read something and lost track of the year you were in?" All the while, I spoke with a gentle smile. He raised his eyes to meet mine, his gaze holding for a moment longer than necessary. "You have transformed since the last time you occupied this space just days prior." I inclined my head ever so slightly. "No," he kept his voice low. "No, you've held so much within. But now it feels as though you're finally allowing yourself to breathe out." I blinked, taken aback by the striking accuracy of that sensation. As if he had observed my heart gradually revealing itself in silence until this very moment. Jason inhaled deeply. A thought has been occupying my mind lately. Concerning you, concerning this matter. He offered no further details, yet I chose not to press him. I have just listened. This took me by surprise. It is destined to occur, he remarked. I believed I was merely assisting my mum's coworker with a handful of boxes. But then our paths crossed. And you were not what I had anticipated. I swallowed softly. What were your expectations?
I'm uncertain.
Perhaps a soul filled with gratitude. Compassionate. Yet you are so much more than that. Your intelligence, humor, strength, and beauty possess a captivating quality that effortlessly draws others in, often without their conscious awareness. A warmth blossomed within my chest, radiating outward. Years had passed since anyone had addressed me in such a manner, not merely through flattery, but through honesty. In a clear manner, I moved nearer to him, my fingertips gliding along the edge of a box. What shall we do with this? At this moment. He gazed at me, the silence stretching between us like an unspoken question. We take our time. We refrain from assigning a label to it. We simply allow it the space to be whatever it may be. I inclined my head in acknowledgement. That resonated perfectly. As I loaded the last boxes into my car, I observed him meticulously arranging them. His hands tender despite the burden they bore. He was not merely rearranging objects. He was paying tribute to them. It was as if he grasped that they were not merely boxes, but vessels holding fragments of a life experienced. As we concluded our task, we found ourselves side by side, gazing into the open trunk. The street lay in silence, the air unmoving. He turned to Chu, facing me with a look of determination. Is this really it? He inquired. Perhaps I mentioned. Perhaps that's not the case. I leave it to you to decide. He smiled, a subtle yet authentic curve gracing his lips. Would it be unusual if I requested another chance to meet you? There are no boxes, no strenuous effort required. Only you and I. My heart, once wary and withdrawn, began to unfurl just a bit more. Indeed, I mentioned that it would be quite ordinary. He leaned in, not to kiss me, but merely to press his forehead against mine. It was a moment of unparalleled intimacy, surpassing all that could have transpired. Silence, rooted in reality. Indeed, as he withdrew, his fingers gently swept a lock of hair away from my cheek. I shall reach out to you. I'll be waiting, I whispered. He ambled away, the gentle jingle of his keys shattering the stillness. As he rounded the corner, I remained still, sunlight cascading over my shoulders, full of warmth and sincerity. That evening in my new abode, I found myself enveloped by a sea of half-unpacked boxes, the air infused with the scent of cardboard mingling with the soothing aroma of lavender from a freshly plugged-in diffuser. Once more, I unearthed my old paintbrushes, placed them upon the table, and gazed at the untouched canvas before me. And for the first time in years, I felt a sense of liberation. I felt seen. I experienced a profound sense of recognition, not due to the presence of another who completed me, but because he illuminated the truth that I was already complete, and that perhaps, just perhaps, something beautiful was poised to emerge on the other side of farewell.